The journey after the merger. When water forgets it was hydrogen. Message on the occasion of the 70th birthday of Pujya Daaji. 28 September 2025. Kanha Shanti Vanam. Dear ones, most people believe that liberation or nirvana is the pinnacle of spiritual growth. It is putting out the fires of greed, hate, arrogance, and ignorance. It is the end of the cycle of pain and death. It is the ultimate state of liberation. Then, based on what Kabir Sahib said, we start to understand a little bit about the possibility of merging when our ego has learned to take a back seat. Kabir Sahib makes it sound very easy. He says that this state of merger is like raindrops falling into the ocean. No drop is left behind to describe how it is to become the ocean. Babuji's shocking statement. When you attain merger, you can finally be called a beginner, turns everything we thought we knew upside down. What we thought was the end of the road is actually preparing us for the real journey to begin. To put it another way, a musician spends years learning how to play their instrument. They can only really start to create when they have mastered it completely, and there is no difference between them and their music. Techniques give way to pure expression. Now the question is, what is there that goes beyond this unity of musician and music? The silence from which all music comes and into which it fades away. Not an empty silence, but one full of every possible melody. The master musician knows that the most powerful music is played in the spaces between the notes. Let's look into the merger and what happens beyond it. First, we need to know who wants it. And who is left to know that the search is over? The drops claim that I have become the ocean shows that the merger has not yet happened. There is no I left to make such a claim in a real merger. And there is no entity left to watch itself fall apart. The drop can't say, I am the ocean now, because the I that could say that isn't there anymore. This isn't death as we know it. It's the biggest change. Death can even lead to eternal life. Take a moment to think about this. The drop that asks the question, who experiences the ocean is no longer there. It is like asking, what does the candle flame think when it joins the forest fire? The question assumes a thinker that is no longer alive. Nature shows us this great secret in the most ordinary things. Take hydrogen. It can explode, is dangerous, and is ready to catch fire. Oxygen is what feeds every fire and makes it burn faster. By themselves, they spell trouble. But what happens when they come together in the right way? Water, the thing that keeps everything going and is the basis of all life. Listen up now. What happens to the hydrogen? Where's the oxygen? They haven't been destroyed. They've turned into something neither of them could have imagined on their own. The hydrogen can't say, I am now water, because there is no longer any hydrogen in its pure form to back up that claim. A new reality has emerged that is different from both of the original elements and serves a different purpose. And check out all the amazing things that chlorine and sodium can do. Chlorine is a poisonous gas that is used in war, and sodium blows up when it comes into contact with water. But when they mix, they make common salt, which our cells need. The deadly has become necessary, and the poisonous has become safe. The river joining the ocean, raindrops falling into the ocean, and hydrogen combining with oxygen are all ways to say that the purpose is coming together. It shows that a merger isn't just about putting two things together. It's about making something new and more meaningful. It's about giving up old identities to find a new one that everyone can use for a grander purpose. Losing oneself for a greater cause. It's not about one thing taking over another. It's about both entities giving up who they are to join a new, higher purpose. Think of it as giving something up that will make you feel fulfilled. A change in state, not just a combination. A normal merger is like mixing two different paints to get a new color. A transcendent merger, on the other hand, is like two things coming together to make a whole new thing, like hydrogen and oxygen coming together to make water. They don't just mix, they change. The unexpected result. The transcended entity can do things that neither of the original entities could have done on their own. The new entity has new abilities, a new mind, or a new goal that it couldn't have had before the merger. When Babuji says that the merger is just the beginning, a lot of people are shocked. Master, they say, what comes next if becoming one isn't the end? What I've learned from experience is this: first comes merger, which is like the ocean welcoming the river with open arms. Even if it's faint, there is still a memory of being a river. Consider that this movement of the river is to arrive in the same loka, Salokita. Then, as we mature, we become identical. And even the memory of being different fades away. Sodium doesn't remember being sodium anymore. It is just salt, and it doesn't want to go back to being explosive in nature. This is not enough for close conformity. At this point, our individual will is gone, and there is such perfect alignment that divine will flows through the vessel without any resistance or even awareness of the flow. It doesn't push anything away. It holds everything just like space. And even more than this, words don't do it justice. How can water tell hydrogen and oxygen what it means to care for living things? How can salt tell sodium and chlorine how happy it is to keep food fresh and maintain the blood's delicate balance? Western philosophy calls the void a scary nothingness, but we know it as the most active fullness. When hydrogen and oxygen mix to make water, do they turn into nothing? No, they can help whole ecosystems. That's how the void of ego feels after the merger. It's not empty. It's so full that it doesn't need to be announced. A realized being who has gone beyond merger doesn't walk around saying, I am enlightened. Water doesn't have to say, I am H2O. It flows, feeds, cleans, and supports. Its very existence is its declaration. Now, here's something to think about. The goal isn't to become the ocean. The point is to realize that you were never the drop. You were always the ocean that thought it was a drop. But this knowledge is not the end. It is only the start of the real work. You need to learn how to consciously dream yourself back into a drop once you realize you are the ocean. This time, you won't do it out of ignorance, but out of supreme knowledge. This is what sets the free soul apart from the bound one. One person believes what they see, while the other plays the part on purpose so that others can keep dreaming. When I talk, I always wonder who it is. Lalaji, me, or someone else. Babuji says, one thing is sure from all of this, our I-ness goes away. You might be thinking, these are great ideas, but I still have to deal with traffic jams and other problems every morning. That's the point. The ocean needs to learn how to feel itself as each drop, fully aware of the limitations of the incarnation, while being anchored in the unlimited. But Daji, you might ask, how do we do this in real life? Be like water. Water doesn't choose who to help. It doesn't say, I will only go through golden channels. It stays the same but changes to fit each container. When heated, it rises as vapor without any problems. It freezes easily when it gets cold. But it never forgets what it really is, even with all these changes. A way to keep life going. Always remember what sodium taught you. Even water, which is vital for life, can be bad when it comes into contact with the wrong element. The spiritual journey needs both the flexibility of water and the knowledge to pick the right person to help us change. The same principle resonates in matters of marriage. Imagine sodium, instead of coming together with chlorine, comes into contact with water. Boom! What happens after the merger? The same things that are beyond water, the many things that water can become and do. Ice sculptures that are so beautiful they take your breath away. Steam powering massive engines. Clouds that bring rain to dry land. Rivers that carve huge canyons. And dewdrops that reflect whole suns. Many things can happen in the space after the merger. It is the hydrogen and oxygen before they meet, and they can make all the water that has ever been or will be. The symphony is about to start, and it has every possible melody. What happens when two great voids meet? The logical answer is that nothing remains. But this nothing is not the same as zero. Infinity is a mathematical concept that asserts that the sum of infinity and infinity remains infinity, rather than resulting in two infinities. When mathematicians found out that there are different sizes of infinity, they touched on a profound spiritual truth. There are not only infinite things beyond merger, but also infinities of infinities, each one different and containing all the others. This is why the journey after the merger never ends. This is what I want to say to you. The drop does not become the ocean. The drop learns that it has always been the ocean. But this discovery is just the first day of school at the University of Infinity. What lies beyond? Someone who has gone beyond the beyond can tell you. When they come back, they learn that silence speaks louder than words, that being their teaches more than preaching, and that the greatest power is not having any power at all, only love, which is the eternal play of hydrogen and oxygen, dissolving into each other and coming back to life as life itself. This is the magic of breaking things down. This is the way that goes beyond the way. That's why I can only smile when you ask, what happens next after the merger? You don't need to say anything. You need to become the answer. And when you do, you'll understand why the masters don't say anything. They simply give you a glass of water and wait for you to figure out how great it is. When you hold that glass of water, think about how hydrogen and oxygen are turning into something else. You are the ocean, and you are amazed by how clean it is. You are the divine, slowly waking up to its own game. And in that remembering, the most amazing thing happens. The ordinary becomes sacred, not by changing into something else, but by being seen for what it always was. In the supreme silence, which is beyond all mergers, may He give us the wisdom to pick the right path. With prayers to the great Master. Kamlesh.